I ultimately made my corrupt bosses pay a stunning price, and it all started with a mysterious hole in a dressing room wall. Early in my career, I landed a great job as a sound and lighting tech at a massive music and dance venue in West London. It was a fantastic gig. From Wednesday to Saturday, we ran various themed nights. On Mondays and Tuesdays, we hosted some huge bands. I'm talking about legends like UB40, The Jam, The Stranglers, and the Thompson Twins. The venue itself was iconic. It was famous for ballroom dancing and boasted the largest sprung maple dance floor in the entire UK. The BBC even used to film episodes of their popular show, Come Dancing There. It was a cavernous place. We could squeeze about 500 people inside when we cleared the tables for a concert. A balcony ran around all four sides of the rectangular arena, housing 2 bars, my sound and lighting control room, and crucially, 6 dressing rooms located directly above the stage. For obvious security reasons, this entire balcony area was strictly off-limits to the public. One of our more unique events was the Wednesday over 25s night. It was for an older crowd, people who grew up in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and for whom the venue was steeped in nostalgia. Now, for those not in the know, we in Britain call customers punters. And you would think these older punters would know how to conduct themselves with a bit of decorum. You would be wrong. It wasn't uncommon to see patrons getting into heated arguments, and on at least 2 separate occasions, I saw a couple of guys, well into their 60s, brandishing flick knives at each other. But the most peculiar element of Wednesday nights involved a certain group of women. Let's just say they weren't there for their love of the Terpsichorean arts. They were more interested in taking the old phrase that dancing is the vertical expression of horizontal intent and turning it into a direct financial transaction. Looking back, many people have pointed out that this might be the single greatest sentence they've ever read to describe ladies of negotiable affection, and I have to agree. This whole operation was an open secret among the staff. We were almost certain that senior management was getting some kind of kickback because they consistently and deliberately looked the other way, and that's when everything began to unravel. I was up in the control room one afternoon when the chief electrician poked his head in. He asked if I'd been in dressing room 6 recently. I told him I'd only popped in for a few seconds to check the light bulbs. He beckoned me to follow him. Intrigued, I went with him into dressing room 6 and was met with a bizarre sight, a large, freshly made hole in the brick wall that connected to dressing room 5. We then stepped into dressing room 5. The hole was covered by a large mirror. A closer look revealed the sickening truth. It was a one-way mirror. The theoretical connection to the activities on Wednesday nights clicked into place instantly. That same evening, I spoke to a couple of my colleagues at one of the balcony bars and asked them to watch the entrance to the dressing rooms. Just as I suspected, they reported back that they saw couples sneaking into the area, followed shortly after by certain members of senior management. They were so smug, so sure of their secrecy, completely unaware that this very act of voyeurism would become the instrument of their downfall. Over the next few weeks, I made excuses to be in the dressing room area, claiming I needed to use the ladder to get to the roof and turn on the extractor fans. The sounds coming from those 2 rooms left absolutely nothing to the imagination. To put it bluntly, the local prostitutes were bringing their clients to dressing room 5, while our senior management team crowded into dressing room 6 to watch the show through the one-way mirror. As you can imagine, this information spread like wildfire through the lower-end staff. The female bar staff were especially, and justifiably, outraged by such heinous behavior. We always got together after our Saturday shift to unwind, and on one particular Saturday, we held a council of war. This was the moment everything changed. It was more than just a plan. It was a pact, a silent agreement that our dignity was worth far more than a week's wages. We knew a massive, sold-out gig was scheduled for the following Tuesday. That's when someone had a brilliant idea. We'd go on strike. The entire bar staff and tech crew, a little over 20 of us, decided we just wouldn't show up. On a big concert night, the bars made an absolute fortune. With no one to serve 500 thirsty fans, the venue was going to lose a serious amount of money. Come Tuesday evening, not a single one of us was there. The next day, on Wednesday, we all came into work and were immediately met by a furious management team. They were absolutely livid. We heard it had been total chaos. The managers and a few bouncers had to work the bars themselves, but they were hopelessly understaffed. They couldn't even begin to serve the massive crowd. They lost a fortune in bar sales that night. Their first move was to threaten to fire every single one of us. This revealed the manager's greatest flaw, pure arrogance. He saw us not as people, but as disposable parts, underestimating the power we held when we stood together. It was a hollow threat. Anyway, if they fired us all, they'd have no one to run the venue that very evening. That's when we played our trump card. A few days earlier, I had taken detailed photos of the mirror, clearly showing the setup and its one-way nature. We laid out our ultimatum: either they remove that mirror and permanently block the hole, or the full set of photos would be sent directly to the company's head office. We were certain the top brass would be fascinated by the little side hustle their senior managers were running. We also mentioned that the local police station, which was literally next door, might also take an interest in their activities. The effect was instantaneous. You could practically hear the air hiss out of them as they visibly deflated right before our eyes. The bravado vanished, replaced by pale, slack-jawed panic. Our demands were met immediately and without a single question. No one was fired. A few days later, we learned that the head manager had been moved on to pastures new, and a new manager was brought in. The final score was clear: venue staff, 4, management, 0. In the end, this story is a powerful reminder that when people stand together against corruption, they can win. Solidarity and courage are the best weapons against those who abuse their power. What would you have done in our shoes? Have you ever had to stand up to a boss who thought they were completely untouchable? I'd love to hear your story in the comments.